The Trump administration sent federal troops to Los Angeles over the objections of the mayor and the governor in response to protest over his administration's barbaric immigration raids. Also, let's not forget, Elon Musk said Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. I know that was 4 days ago, which feels like a century in Trump years, and there's a lot going on. But, I just want us all to hold space for the fact that the richest man in the world said the most powerful man in the world was suppressing evidence of his ties to the world's most notorious child sex trafficker, both because it was massive news and because it is so funny. Anyway, for more on this, it's time for a closer look. Look, you guys, I would love nothing more than to spend all my time today talking about the Trump-Musk feud. Well, that's not true. I'd love nothing more than to spend all my time today talking about how Trump pulled a Biden and fell up the stairs on his way to Air Force One. What move is Trump going to steal from Biden next? Long stories about growing up in Scranton. There was once a guy named Corn Pop, bad guy, nasty guy. I'm not joking around. Anyway, where were we? Right, the Trump-Musk feud. It happened like 45 minutes before we taped our show on Thursday, and there was so much more we wanted to say about it. It seemed like everyone was getting involved. Steve Bannon said Elon should be deported, and even one of Elon's exes chimed in.
Ashley St. Clair, Musk's ex-girlfriend and alleged mother of one of his children, writing, "Hey, @real Donald Trump, let me know if you need any breakup advice."
I mean, I wouldn't worry. The dude has plenty of breakups. You know his policy. Don't cry because it's over. Frown because it happened. And it wasn't just exes and right-wing podcasters who got involved. This feud got so messy that even the astronauts who are currently on the International Space Station somehow caught a stray.
At one point Thursday, amidst all of the back and forth, Musk said that he would start to decommission SpaceX's Dragon program. That came after President Trump threatened to end Musk's government contracts. The Dragon spacecraft is the only U.S. method to get astronauts to and from the International Space Station.
That's right. Elon was so mad at Trump, he threatened to leave astronauts stranded in space. Can you imagine being mission control and having to explain that? Mission control to ISS. You guys might be up there for a while. Mission control, this is ISS. Why? What's going on? Well, you know Donald Trump, right? Uh-huh. And Elon Musk? Yes? All right. Do you also remember notorious child sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein? Oh, we're never coming home, are we? This is yet another reason why billionaires should not control everything. Space travel should not be privatized. One guy should not be able to shut down America's space program because he's in a measuring contest with the president. If rich guys really want to help fund our space program, they can pay their taxes. Or maybe we can make them buy ad space on our rockets. Then we can at least put Elon's tweet on the first mission to Mars. And that was not the only side drama, because somehow two key Trump officials, the vice president and the FBI director, were both recording podcasts on Thursday when Elon tweeted his Epstein accusations.
Time to drop the really big bomb. Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. That's the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day. Jesus Christ.
I'm not participating in any of that conversation
What is
between
he?
Elon
Have a
and Trump.
nice day. Jesus Christ, that's a crazy thing to say. How does he know? Does he know that Donald Trump is in the Epstein files? Or does he have access to the Epstein files?
I don't know how he would, but I'm just staying out of the Trump-Elon thing. That's way outside
What the are they doing?
I know my lane, and that ain't it.
Elon just hit the airwaves today. Bring it up,
man.
dude.
Oh, man. I haven't even seen this one.
But he goes, real Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. This is the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day.
First of all, absolutely not. Donald Trump didn't do anything wrong with Jeffrey Epstein. The guy is, whatever the Democrats and the media says about him, that's totally BS.
Yeah, but it wasn't Democrats, and it wasn't the media. It was Donald Trump's close personal friend, a guy who gave him $300 million and campaigned for him and worked for him and followed him everywhere for months, a guy who was constantly with Trump on foreign trips and at the White House and who had special access to government databases and who not long ago tweeted that he loves Donald Trump as much as a straight man can love another man. That guy. If you forgot him, here's a picture, and this is cool. You're in it. Also, it's crazy that Elon Musk made an accusation so stunning. Even Joe Rogan was speechless. He reacted to Elon's tweet like a guy seeing Sixth Sense for the first time. What the It turns out Elon was a ghost the whole time? Also, can we go back to this bit?
I'm not participating in any of that conversation.
What?
I love that the head of the FBI's reaction to a recent government employee implying the president is a pedophile is basically, TMI. Also, he didn't even say Elon was wrong. There is no one more in a position to immediately squash this than the FBI director, who has access to all the relevant files. But he chose instead to say, I'm not touching that one. Sadly, we have to move on from that story, which means it's time for late night lessons learned. So what do we learn from this story? 1, billionaire oligarchs should not control our politics. 2, core government functions like space travel should not be privatized. 3, if Elon Musk is right about Donald Trump being in the Epstein files, that means he knew that and continued to work for Donald Trump because he didn't consider that a deal breaker. And that a person of such low moral character should not in any case be in charge of making cuts to programs that provide life-saving medical services to people around the world, but hey, at least he got a stupid golden key out of it. Freaky! The Trump-Musk feud was yet another spectacle brought to us by a presidency that is entirely about spectacle rather than substance. You need no further proof of that than what happened in LA this weekend, where the Trump administration sought to create a made-for-TV spectacle around their barbaric immigration raids. Just look at who was involved in the raids.
There was a familiar face, maybe one that you wouldn't expect, who was embedded with ICE agents during Friday's raids. It was Dr. Phil and his camera crew, who say that they got a first-hand look at the targeted operations, which ended with dozens of people being detained.
Dr. Phil was out there producing a show that's going to air on his relatively small cable channel today and tomorrow. It's not about the ratings ultimately, it's about what this represents, and it represents a desire to put on a show.
I'm sorry, but the only way Dr. Phil should be involved in government is if he's doing an episode titled, Help, My Ex Just Accused Me of Being in the Epstein Files.
So how did it make you feel when you saw that he posted that? I mean, I was angry, I was hurt, you know. When someone claims they love you as much as a straight man can love another man, you know, you want to believe him, Dr. Phil. And why do you think he said it, Elon? Well, you know, sometimes you say things you don't mean, you know, sometimes you say things you do mean, and sometimes you say things you ketamine. The point is, wordplay? A little bit of Monday wordplay?
The point is, that's what the Trump administration wants, a spectacle for right-wing media, a climate of fear and chaos. And no one is better suited to achieve a climate of fear than Trump's creepiest aide, Stephen Miller. Miller wants terrifying mass immigration raids everywhere. Regardless of whether the targets are people with criminal records or 4-year-olds, he's a rabid authoritarian who wants to create the feeling that nowhere is safe, from courthouses to 7-Elevens.
The conservative Washington Examiner, a conservative paper, has this quote out of a private meeting where Stephen Miller is screaming at agents, what do you mean you're going after criminals? Why aren't you at Home Depot? Why aren't you at 7-Eleven?
I'm sorry, but the only thing cops should be looking for at 7-Eleven is 14-year-olds trying to buy porn, not to arrest them, but to commend them for buying print media. It is why I believe reading aptitude is down in this nation. My generation would buy the magazine, and at some point, after you looked at the pictures long enough, you'd say, I guess I'll read this Burt Reynolds interview. And if you're still buying porn in magazine form rather than looking at it on the internet, you should get a medal. 7-Eleven is like the last place in America where you can still get porn in print. It's a sacred place. It's like the National Archives or the Library of Congress. In fact, this is true. The original copy of the Declaration of Independence is stored at a 7-Eleven in Washington, D.C., right next to the very first edition of Jugs magazine, which was about actual jugs back then. Miller wants a climate of fear and chaos, and that's exactly what ICE set out to create in LA over the weekend with mass immigration raids that set off the protests to which they responded with troops. And if you only watch right-wing media, they would have you believe the entirety of Los Angeles is currently under siege.
Here is something that the president posted. He says, a once great American city, Los Angeles has been invaded and occupied by illegal aliens and criminals. Now violent insurrectionist mobs are swarming and attacking our federal agents to try and stop our deportation operations.
Trump's so detached from reality, he sounds like he's writing a sci-fi screenplay. Exterior Los Angeles. The year is 3075. A once great American city has been invaded by aliens from the fourth dimension. Only Space Force Captain Donald J. Trump can stop them, but first he must find a way off the International Space Station. After being abandoned by his robot, the Electronic Launch Orbital Network, also known as Elon. The vast majority of LA was going about life as usual over the weekend, which is why the mayor and the governor both said they did not need National Guard troops and did not request them. But the Trump administration wanted to send them anyway. That's why right-wing media has been playing images like this on a loop.
You know, let's hope that no one is hurt and no one is injured and it doesn't escalate from here. Look at the flag. Yeah, Guy, I see
there it is.
You
Mexican
it out.
flag can, you know.
This is criminal activity that I hope is people are held accountable for. And I'm talking about the riots right here.
Where are the cops?
Yeah, where are they? We heard earlier that Karen Bass, the mayor of LA, an allegation that she had prevented the LAPD from responding yesterday when these were first developing, Guy, for upwards of 2 hours or more. To your point, where are the police?
I'll say this. If I was a representative of the police union, I would not care for the fact that Fox News asked, where are the police, right as they panned to a giant donut. Grow up, Fox News. Also, why are you so obsessed with talking about the Mexican flag when we should clearly be talking about this guy's tiny motorcycle? Here's how you know it's not an invasion. The motorcycle is too tiny. We can't see who's riding it, but it very well might be a bear from the circus. Also, if you're against property damage and protesters flying un-American flags, you guys would have hated January 6th. And by the way, we were gonna do a whole January 6th hypocrisy routine and play all the clips we would normally play of Trump and MAGA pundits defending rioters and pardoning people who attack cops. But these people are immune to hypocrisy. So let's just pretend that happened and skip to the end where I say to Trump, you, sir, just got home. But if you watch the next 10 seconds, the scene looks very different.
Well, the officials in this part of the country, in Los Angeles and California, are too busy tripping over themselves to attack Donald Trump and law enforcement. I guess those are the cops back there.
Yeah! Look how many cop cars there are. There haven't been that many cops in one place since Bane tricked them all into the sewers. They're on the scene. They just don't feel the urgent need to storm in with riot gear for two guys riding on regular-sized motorcycles and one guy on a tiny one. But the right wants you to think this is beyond the control of local police. They want it to feel like a crisis that's out of control, even when it's not. That's why the Secretary of Defense took a break from texting war plans to his wife between gin and tonics and threatened to send in the Marines, which surprised even CNN's national security expert.
The deployment of active military, not even National Guard, into the streets of Los Angeles for arguably a few cars on fire, a lot of people upset with ICE. Well, guess what? A lot of people are upset with ICE. And the arrest, the appropriate arrest of people who are stopping federal law enforcement and ICE from their federal activities. I know I don't really know how to react to this as a professional because it's sort of like, what? I'm not laughing. It's like active duty Marines for this. I mean, we were just reporting on it. There's music, the traffic is moving. Most people in LA probably don't even know that this is going on.
I'm sorry, traffic is moving? In LA? If that's the case, these protesters should be arrested. They should get medal, but just FYI, it looks identical to the buying porn at 7-Eleven medal, so I wouldn't wear it in public, just like keep it in a drawer or something. Seriously, if this is what it takes to get traffic moving in LA, then maybe we need more protests against ICE. When I heard traffic was moving in LA, my honest reaction was,
what the?
No, let's never forget. Let's never forget how the Trump administration bullies. They do it to provoke a response that retroactively excuses their bullying. They did this on purpose. It was not a misstep by Trump. This was a misstep by Trump. ICE didn't come to LA to stop people who were setting cars on fire. They came to rip families apart in an act of political theater, and we can't forget that. They want escalation, they want spectacle because their barbaric immigration raids are wildly unpopular, so they're resorting to authoritarian crackdowns on protests. Let's not forget the big takeaway here, which is that
Donald Trump is in the Epstein files.
Allegedly. This has been a closer look.
It's a fight-off!